Hello there. Welcome back to my channel, Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly and I am excited to share with you a very elegant scrapbook layout created with the brand new Modern Christmas Stampin' Up! Suite collection. So this collection comes with some really interesting gold hoops. There's 10 in a package and they're actually quite lightweight. They have a smooth edge and a smooth top, so they're easy to adhere to your pages and to your cards. I was really concerned when I saw them at first that they might be too heavy, but they absolutely are not. Some black and white gold baker's twine is included and a really interesting ornamental Christmas set. This is the stamp and die set, so you can create ornaments, trees, ornament tops, all kinds of different diamonds, circles, and stars to create a great combination of either stamped trees or die cut trees. Now this paper is crazy beautiful. Gold embedded, so you can see the ornaments with all the gold embedded. Hopefully you can see all that shiny, but what I love about it is it has the perfect patterns on the back side. So we have a lot of gold embedded in one side, and then we have black and white patterns, mostly black and white patterns on the other side. And we have small dot, we have some word paper, we have some Christmas trees that are etched in white, and this is so over the top. I really envision this being something that would be so beautiful for prom or wedding or elegant Christmas. Now I'm just showing you here how our new beautiful flower accents, gold flower accents, would go with this collection, but I don't actually use them tonight. Now I've created a couple Cricut elements. I've cut out a circle from inside a 11.5 by 11.5 willow white, and then also out of a 12 by 12 black. And I'm going to add some 8.5 by 8.5 window sheets, 2 of those, and create a see-through shaker window. Now I've created shaker windows in the past before, but I don't believe I've ever created one that you can see all the way through. So you can see that I'm going to use some of our loose gold sequins in that and create this gorgeous, gorgeous element. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is line up our circles. When you line up these 2 circles, you can see that the 7-inch mark is right in between the circle, in the middle of the circle. But what we're going to want to do is flip the willow white over, add liquid Tombow to the back side of the outer circle of that, and we're going to add the window sheet. So I have it 8.5 by 8.5, which is quite a bit larger than what you think you might need, but I really want it to be sturdy. I want to add a little bit extra so I have a little bit of give. Now I've also created this ring on the Cricut. I'm going to line that up on the left side, and I'm going to make it so easy for me. Once it's lined up, I'm going to add the liquid Tombow to the top, add the acetate, and line it up perfectly with the acetate on the back of the white. Now I know when I flip it over, the 2 of those can be lined up perfectly, and I can add foam in between those 2 elements to create that shaker window. Then we'll be able to mount it on the black with the cutout circle, and everything will line up perfectly, and I love that. So there's a lot of shaker pieces that are going to be needed if we're going to back that entire window with loose sequins. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut part of that circle off with the foam. So we're going to add the foam at about the 6.25 mark. And that way it's going to cut off a little bit of that amount or that area that we're going to have to add loose sequins. Otherwise, you would have to add so many to fill that up. So I'm using our foam strips, and they're perfect. I feel like they're thin enough, but yet they have enough cushion in them to be able to add the sequins in between. So I've created that little shaker element. So that's where the shaker pieces are going to go, but we need to even the whole thing out. So I'm actually going to continue to add foam tape to the left side. Don't worry, it's going to look a little ugly here, but it's all going to be covered up with photo mats and decorative elements. We just want the shaker window, 3/4 of it, to peek in through the right side, and we're going to decorate the rest. So once I have all of the foam tape on that shaker element, I'm going to add a lot of sequins. I don't know, 2 or 3 little large pinches full to fill up that shaker element. I was a little messy, so I want to make sure to get all of those little loose sequins off of the foam so that when I mount the white over the top, it's sealed really well. I'm going to go back over it quite a few times and make sure that the foam is adhered super well. So look how gorgeous that's going to be. Those shaker elements, loose sequins will just shake, and they'll be so beautiful. Now we're not actually going to add this to the black base yet. We're going to add foam tape, and we're going to even all of that out so that when we mount it to the black, it will be even all the way around. Now, I made a mistake by mounting that first. We actually should have stamped on this base piece first. I want to stamp Merry Christmas from Ornamental Christmas, and I'm actually going to go about 4 inches in from the left side of the page is where the C from Merry Christmas is going to hit. And then the M from Merry Christmas will be about 3/4 of an inch down from the top of the white. Now, I don't recommend stamping once you have foam tape in the back. It can be very tricky, but I'm just going to be super careful and cross my eyes, stick my tongue out, hold my breath, and pray that it works. So I actually really luck out. It often doesn't. So you definitely want to do your stamping. And again, the C on Christmas is 4 inches in from the left side of the willow white, and the Merry will hit about 3/4 of an inch down. Now I'm going to add all of that foam tape to even it all out again. So sorry if I had to backtrack there a little bit. I'm going to be a little bit smarter on the right page and get my stamping done before I add the foam tape that is going to even it all out. So now that I have foam tape on the back of the shaker element, we can center that on the black cardstock piece with the circle cut out. Now I'll link in the description a design space file for these circle pieces, but you can actually cut out any size circle that you want to out of the background papers. Now I'm actually going to stamp the right sentiment first. I wanted to stamp "'Tis the Season" from Ornamental Christmas, and don't do what I do here. I actually don't go down low enough. So I wasn't thinking about the bottom of the strip that I'm going to add. I was thinking about the top. So you actually want to stamp below 3.5 inches up from the page. So you're going to measure 3.5 inches up from willow white, and you want to be below that. So even if you set your ruler at 4 inches and you go quite a bit below that, the sentiment is going to hit at about maybe 3.5 inches there. So you're going to add that, and the "'Tis the Season," the S hits about 1 inch in from the left side. Now I have quite a few photo mats here because we're going to be adding lots of photos plus a white willow photo mat. Let's go over the sizes. So I have 4.5 by 8.5. Black with a 4 1/4 by 8 1/4 white, 3.5 by 11 1/8 with a 3 1/4 by 11, actually 10 7/8 white, and then 3.5 by 3 1/2 black with a 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 white, 3.5 by 7 1/4 black with a 3 1/4 by 7-inch white. So the white is just 1/4 of an inch smaller, and now I've created 4 4-inch circles. circles. And I'm going to use the pattern paper sides, and then I'm going to put 3-inch black circles inside, or just barely under 3 inches if you're going to use the die in Ornamental Christmas. So I want to have 2 black 3-inch circles on the right photo mat, and then I want to have the 3-inch circles inside each of the 4-inch circles, just for a little decorative element. And then we're going to cut some additional circles out of some pattern paper, and we're going to use the Ornamental Christmas dies and cut some Christmas trees and some other decorative elements out. But before we get too far, I really want to add those gold hoops. It's so much fun, and it adds so much elegance to this layout. There's going to be some hidden journaling and a couple other things that we're going to do to make this layout super elegant. Sometimes you want to keep things as simple as possible and as clean as possible and as fast as possible. And then other times it's just a collection that is worth all the things. It's so over the top gorgeous that you have to do something incredibly fun and elegant with it. So, believe it or not, just the liquid Tombow works great on these rings. I do let it dry for a little while, and sometimes I will just blot it a little bit with a paper towel, but it dries clear. And I try to be careful not to get it on the top part of the gold ring, and just get it underneath on the underside. And it's actually much easier than it looks because it's flat on the bottom. So I'm going to put all 4 of those in place on the pattern paper. Then I'm going to add foam dimensionals or foam tape to the bottom of the 3-inch circles that are going to go on the 4-inch pattern paper or designer series paper rings. So we'll get that all done. And then we're going to have photo possibilities, 2 3/4-inch circle photos for the top and the bottom circles on the right. So whatever method that you have to create a 2 3/4-inch circle, or any size that you want to go in there, you can cut 2 circular photos, which is super fun. And then you're going to have your 4x4 photos on the large mat on the right, and then you have 3 3x3 photos on the left. Now we're actually going to make a hidden journal element on the top circle on the right that's in the rectangle, and we're also going to have a journal element on the left. It won't be hidden, but we're going to add some elegance by covering it up with vellum. So on both of those, all of those 3-inch circles that are on the pattern paper, I've punched out 2-inch circles out of the Christmas tree pattern paper. And I've cut out a variety of trees, and I'm actually going to pop those up with foam tape as well. On the right page, I made a 2-inch circle out of the gold foil paper. And then I've added that Christmas tree punch out with the 2-inch, and then I also did 2-inch trees on the left 2 circles as well. And then I have a 2 3/8-inch white circle for the right page and a 2 3/8-inch white circle for the left page, because we're going to make a hidden journal element on the right page, and then we're going to cover a little journal element with vellum on the left page. First, we're going to take those beautiful little ornament tops from Ornamental Christmas dies, and we're going to add those. We're going to end up with 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. I believe I only start out with 3, but I'm going to add 1 to the vellum with foam tape so that it holds the vellum. Vellum can be tricky to adhere because you don't want the adhesive to show through the vellum. So by attaching the vellum with a dimensional onto the back of the gold ornament top, I can lay the vellum over the 2-inch circle and the 2 3/8-inch circle. So I plan to journal on the 2-inch circle and mount the 2-inch circle journaling onto the 2 3/8-inch circle and then top that with the vellum ornament. Now on the right page, we have a white ornament top and a gold ornament top. I'm going to put a very thin piece of 3D foam tape on the top of those two ornament tops and then adhere the white piece to the back of the journal circle. That allows me to have a little give in the top of the ornament that would allow it to slide behind the existing photo. And what I'm going to do is put a tiny bit of thin 3D foam tape just around the bottom, and I'm measuring where that needs to go by the circle that's on the top. And then I can remove that, and I'm kind of, fumbling around with it here a little bit, but basically you're just going to make a curve on the bottom of that so that that kind of snugly holds the journal element under there, and it's an ornament, but it's also a slide out. Just one more way to elevate such an elegant layout. I really, really love it. Now, if you need to add just another little thin 3D foam tape piece in there, if it's a little bit too flimsy, you can add another thin piece just so it slides down and it covers all the way. Now that we have dry placement of all of those pieces and we kind of have a great idea of where we want them to go, we have a little bit of background decorating. It's a little bit backwards because we usually do the background first and then decorate on top. But with this one, there's a lot involved in the background. So I have some striped gold pieces here. They are 1.5 by 3.5, 1.5 by 2.5, 1.5 by 2 times 2. And we're going to have a 1/2 inch piece of black of those same sizes that we're going to put up on the top. All of them are going to fit, I believe, except for the one on the right page, right side of the left page. I'm going to have to trim that one down a little bit, but sometimes you never quite know where everything is going to hit. So I would rather start with a little larger piece and then trim it down. It actually gets trimmed down quite small to approximately, I'm going to say about 1.25 inch, because you don't want it to stick too far underneath the stitched circle that's going to go on top, because we only want white to show under the stitched circle. We don't want the striped gold to show underneath that. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the 1/2 inch black strips, and we're going to create this faux strip so that it doesn't cover up the see-through shaker element. We're going to add Tombow glue, and we're going to add the stitched frame to the top, which is just going to put it over the top. It's just going to make it look even more elegant. Like I said, I can see this for black tie events, little black dress events, for weddings, for Christmas, for prom, for so many things. You could dress it down with black and white family photos or even color family photos. If you wanted red and green Christmas photos, it would go great with the pops of the gold and the black and white. So now what you're seeing me do here is do what I had said in the beginning, that I needed to go below the 4-inch mark. And so that sentiment needs to be down around 3.5, 3 3/4 below that. So I actually had to waste a piece of paper and add another 11.5 by 11.5 inch black. So now you see we're going to add the longest piece, which is the 3.5 inch striped piece on the right page, because there's going to be a larger gap there, and then a small little piece over to the right. And you can just trim off the excess, and it will just kind of get placement here of the photo mats, and we're going to overlap the photo mats on the left and the right. And it's going to be so pretty. So I love that we have some round elements to soften the layout, but we also have some rectangular photos as well. So now we have our circle pieces that we prepared. and we're going to add this photo mat to the left. Now you can see this photo mat looks a little funny because it's the 3x3 photos, but I added extra space at the bottom. So when I gave you those measurements, it was actually longer than it needed to be because I wanted a little bit to work with down below, and we're also working to cover up the ugly parts of the shaker that won't show. And so I'm just going to toggle these pieces a little bit over, a couple of the pieces under. So this plaid black and white circle here, we're going to toggle that under by putting the plaid piece under and the ring under, and then the black piece with the journal piece up above. And so that's going to give us a lot of dimension, and it's just going to look so elegant. Our family isn't super elegant. We don't really do a lot of elegant things, or we don't go, out on the town. We have dressed up like on cruises where you have like maybe the captain's dinner, or we dress up for Christmas, or occasionally we'll dress up to go out to dinner. It isn't too often, but this was just too hard to resist. And I'm definitely going to be able to find gorgeous photos that can go with this layout. Most of the time I have the photos to go with the layout, but there are times where I'm so in love with the collection that I'm like, I'm using it and I'm going to find the photos later. So now we have these little gold pieces that are interesting. The die from the Ornamental Christmas set doesn't cut all the way through. It just makes an impression, which is really kind of neat if you want to just make an impression on the top of a decorative element. But I opted to add the striped piece behind those and then trim around those to make a little interesting peekaboo piece there. And we're going to add one of those pieces to the left page and one of those pieces to the right page. So then I'm going to actually come back and we're going to fill in some paper pieces and some decorative elements. Now, I actually left most of the adhesive off the top of the photo mat that's on the right page. And the larger photo mat, because I'm going to tuck some pieces of paper on there. First, I'm going to make sure that we have all of the gold foil pieces. So I created this out of our tag punch. And then, of course, made sure that we had the ornament tops on all the right spots. Added those Christmas trees, which I love, and just kind of toggled those and added those paper elements. So the paper elements on the right are 3x4 for the elongated dot. And then we have, I believe it's about 1.5 by, let me check it here, 4 for the diamond piece, and I toggled those up above. Now we're going to take a piece of that pretty twine, we have it anyway, and we're going to wrap it around a glue dot about 3 times, and then we're just going to stick that in a couple different places. We're going to stick one to the left by that little ornamental element, and then one to the top of the photo mat. Now, some of the leftover pieces that come out of that circular piece we're able to use as embellishment. So I saved a couple of those. I also cut out a few die-cut diamonds that are from Ornamental Christmas. And then we also have all of those loose sequins that we can add. So you can add way more than I did, but I just wanted a couple really choice decorative little circles, diamonds, and sequins, and I love it. I am getting happy. That is how we elevated an elegant layout, a see-through shaker window that is just so unique and gorgeous. I just love doing something different. And then we have the vellum over the journal spot on the left, and we have a peekaboo hidden journaling spot on the right. I really hope that you love it. It's actually a project that I'll be teaching at a retreat that's coming up here this weekend. So this video will debut after that retreat this weekend. So I'm really excited to see what all the ladies at the retreat think of this gorgeous collection called Modern Christmas. I hope you'll hit like, subscribe, the notifications bell, and you'll shoot me a comment and let me know what you thought of this gorgeous sweet collection and layout. I hope you'll come back soon for more tips and tricks and to hang out and share the love of paper crafting. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.